2024 and reading was like a match made in heaven for me, honestly. I've never read so much, and I've never read so many good books either. Full disclosure, I think I got back into reading 2023. I actually set myself a Goodreads goal of 12. I read 6 books, and I wasn't consciously trying to do anything other than read more, make sure that I was spending more time reading. But I continued into 2024 and I set a reading goal of 20. No, that's a lie. I set a reading goal of 12 again, and I got 23. I read 23 books last year through purely just being lucky enough to pick up one good book and then another and then another, and I didn't want to stop reading. I didn't do anything crazy. I wasn't reading for hours on end over weekends, but a couple of hours here and there, and trying to pick it up most days has got me there. So unconsciously I've read 23 books this year, and I thought, let's do a 2024 reading review and also do a little bit of a book tag. I've seen a few going around, and it might give you a little bit of an insight into the kind of books I like to read. So without further ado, we're going to use Goodreads, and we're going to take a little look at my year in books and run through every book read very quickly. I'm going to rate them as either epic, great, nice, or forgettable. Okay, so my year in books 2024. I've read 23 books, as I said. My shortest book was 208, and a book called I Who Have Never Known Men. It was a good book. It was actually quite a harrowing read actually by the time I got to the end of it, and one that I do think back to every now and again, so would recommend it based on that. And the longest read, A Court of Silver Flames. We'll get to that. Average book length 442. I read a lot of fantasy last year. Akata, I'm looking at you, and so that makes sense. My most shelved book by the Goodreads community was A Court of Thorns and Roses. Obviously, I think the entire world read that book last year. And the least shelved was actually a book called Appetite, which is surprising. Oh, no, it's not surprising. It should be talked about more. It's an historical fiction book. I picked it up from the library solely based on the cover, actually. It just stood out to me, honestly. I like a little bit of historical fiction every now and again, and this, yeah, as I said, this screamed interesting. Very briefly, it's set in 14th or 15th century Florence, and really just follows the lives of a main character in that time period and the likely events of what would have happened around then. It's also got a really interesting take on food, and he's got a very unique perspective and on the senses, so that's really interesting as well. But yeah, a really enjoyable read. Okay, so now we get to the run through of my books. It looks good, you know. Oh, they've kindly enlarged the ones that I loved most. But yeah, it's a good collection. I'm really happy. Okay, The Atlas Six, great. The Grimm sisters, nice. The Atlas Paradox and Atlas Complex, whilst I had really high hopes, they're going to have to go in the nice category. They just could have been amazing, I think, but didn't quite reach that mark. The Last Shot, that's actually an autobiography, so I'm not going to rate that one in the same way, but if that's of interest to you, if chef life essentially is an interest to you, you might want to read it. The Familiars, nice. The Foundling, nice. Appetite, as I said, great. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, epic, absolutely epic. Cannot wait for the book to be released at the end of this month and get back into that world. I've missed it so much. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, great. Bookshops and Bone Dust, nice. I Who Have Never Known Men, great. Very different to all of these books, but great, it stays with me, and for that reason it's great. A Court of Thorns and Roses, great. A Court of Mist and Fury, epic. Wings of Ruin, epic. Frost and Starlight, great. The whole series is obviously fantastic, but the two books that stood out for me particularly were Mist and Fury and Wings and Ruin. I just think the plot lines were so fast-paced and full-on that it matched the romantasy side of things for me, which was good to balance that out. How to Kill Your Family, great. Again, a nice break from fantasy and a really nice, sharp book. Northwards, surprisingly great. If you'd asked me halfway through, I wouldn't have been sure what I'd give it, but When we got to the end and it all became very clear, yeah, great. A Court of Silver Flames. Now, I could have left this book. It's gonna have to be nice, but I don't even want to. But nice seems, it's begrudging, because of how much I like the characters and the rest of the series. But really, what did it achieve? Throne of Glass, however, epic, and I've already read the second book now. This side of Christmas, or this side of the New Year, I should say. And I'm straight back in there. Right, Rewitched. Do you know what? Epic. You might question that, but epic. It's up there. And The Book That Wouldn't Burn, great. And I'm really excited for the next books that are going to follow. Okay. That's good. That just confirms it was a good reading year. And I can't wait to get into 2025. That will come next, my 2025 TBR, or books that I cannot wait to arrive. If I were to do a top 3, they would be as follows. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, joint, that's my number 1. Couldn't stop thinking about it, still can't. I just loved everything about it. I was hooked from the first page, honestly hooked. Couldn't put it down. Second spot would go to Throne of Glass, for very similar reasons. The writing, I think, gripped me a lot more than the ACOTAR series did, even though I read 5 of those books. And I obviously spent a lot more time reading them. I know a lot more about the rest of the series compared to Throne of Glass at this point. It just didn't quite resonate with me, or in that same way. It was still a 5-star series. There was plenty of 5-star books in there for me, but it's that 6-star feeling that I hear a lot about. You literally cannot put that book down. So yeah, Throne of Glass. And then the last spot would actually go to Rewitched. Now, very different to the other reads. Slower, easier to read, but in no way should that undermine what the book does. It's warming and it's relaxing, but equally you want to turn the page. You want to know what happens. So that's absolutely up there for me, because I just had such a lovely time reading it. I really did. I cannot wait for the second one, actually. That's due out this year. So with that portion done, let's take a look at some common questions in book tags, and let's see how we go. Okay, so most disappointing book of the year. I think looking through, it would have to be A Court of Silver Flames. I really enjoyed all of the books. I was really looking forward to another big plot line, especially given the size of the book. I mean, this was a chunky book, right? My longest read, 757 pages. And it just didn't do anything for me, honestly. I like elements of everything that was in there, but it didn't seem to have a purpose. Sorry. What was an underdog book? I think, do you know, Rewitched could be my underdog book. I pre-ordered it because I follow Lucy Jane Wood on Instagram and YouTube, and I have done for a long time. And I pre-ordered it because I wanted to support her. And I thought it would be nice, but actually I just think it's very cleverly written. And I think that's not always picked up in some books, but I think this one is. And it just really did something lovely for the world. Yeah. That one. A book that surprised me. If we're talking physically surprised, if you know what I mean, I'm going to go with Northwards. As I said earlier, it's when you get to the end and right at the last, 10 pages, there is something that really surprised me. Not shocked. It's not a negative thing in any way, but it surprised me. And I thought, oh yeah, of course. So yeah, I'd say that. What's next? Your favourite cover of the year? Ooh. I definitely pick up books based on the cover and based on the like the first line of the summary, because I don't like to know a huge amount going into a book. And I think you question too much early on and you just enjoy it. So I definitely do go on covers. What did I pick up based on? Your favourite cover? I think I'm going to have to go with The Book That Wouldn't Burn. That was definitely a book that I picked up based on cover. I saw it in a local bookshop actually, and then I found it in the library kind of repertoire, so ordered it in. And I just thought, yeah, that's a bit of me. That's a bit of me. Unpopular book that you loved. Ooh, okay, this is easy actually. Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I had no concept of what these books were about going into them, and I hadn't read ACOTAR either. But whilst I tried to avoid things, I did see the odd comment comparing Fourth Wing to A Court of Thorns and Roses, not in the best way. And generally, even since reading both series, I don't really see it, and B, I don't see a lot of love for the Empyrean series. So, yeah, Fourth Wing, let's say Fourth Wing, without a doubt, and I'm obsessed, honestly obsessed. Book with the most unique concept that I read this year. Oh, can you give books? Can I say one I've already said? Can I use a book that I've already mentioned? Yeah, it's got to be Off Instinct, right? Okay. Northwards, again, by Daniel Mason. Without giving too much away again, because I don't necessarily want to do what I don't enjoy and tell people about these books before they've read them. It's only a short book. I would just say read it. Honestly, read it. It's historical fiction, and it's based around... I guess I've got to explain this a bit more. It's based around one area throughout multiple time periods. And as I was reading it, and as how the book is laid out and written, I just thought it was very, very clever. Is that enough? You'll have to trust me. You'll have to go and read it. Yeah. Not an epic tale, but just very clever, you know? Let's do one more. What book did you wish you got to this year? What book did I wish I got to this year? What book I'm gonna have to go to my saved books. There's nothing that immediately jumps to mind, to be completely honest. I have plenty in my Goodreads want to read section, which is actually such a clever little feature really, isn't it? Oh yeah, okay. It's actually a non-fiction book, but it's called Ultra Processed People. I do actually have this now, I got given it for Christmas. And it's a book that I've just heard amazing things about, and I don't read too many non-fiction books, especially self-help books or anything like that, but this just seems to be the most scientifically accurate and makes the most logical sense of all the kind of books that are out right now about this. So yes, Ultra Processed People. As I said, I do now have it, so that's going to be very much top of my list for the next couple of months. Maybe January or February I'll get to this. So it shouldn't be too much longer. If there's anything else fiction-wise... well, actually, there is a book that I've had on my library reserve list for a long time, and it's obviously so popular that it's just not become available for me yet. And it's called The Garden in Time. Where is it? Can't find it now. But I'll put a picture here. I know exactly what it looks like. So yeah, say that. Yeah, A Garden in Time. Again, saw the cover, thought that looks amazing. Wish I'd got to it, but physically couldn't really, unless I was going to buy the book. But there's plenty of time. Plenty of time. Okay. This is going to happen. Absolutely going to do this. Right, a book called I Who Have Never